Hello, everybody. Welcome to November 2022's Joy Box. We are crafting with our textured trees, and I am so excited to share some of these different texture techniques with you this month that really can be applied anywhere, anytime. And I mentioned this in the group, but if you didn't see it, I do recommend grabbing yourself a bottle of school glue or Elmer's all-purpose glue. It doesn't even have to be Elmer's. School glue or all-purpose glue works great because you're going to want to crackle paint other things. It's addicting and it's so fun. And it's so cool to just start to see that texture come through. So you do get glue in your kit, but I highly recommend grabbing some so you can play with it in other areas as well. So let's get started. This is the insert that you got, and this month we're doing something a little different with the insert. We are including what you're going to need. So that you know right away before you even watch the video, you can have all your supplies ready to go. We have what you'll need also listed in the written instructions, but that was really the only place that was there. So we thought this would be helpful for you guys to have that right on the insert. So your insert again is your picture, the links for all the information, such as where to find the tutorials, where to log into your membership site on our website to change your shipping address, change such and such. We are going through a membership subscription plugin change, so we'll be contacting everybody individually on that within the next couple months, but our current one is lacking in a lot of features we want to be able to offer, such as affiliates. If you guys get people to sign up, we can give you guys discounts on your boxes up to almost getting a free box. We really want to get that in place. So there's a lot of things that we want to do with our subscription service for you guys, to benefit you guys, to make things easier for you, that our current one isn't doing. So that the membership login website though isn't going to change whether you're on the new system or old system. That link is set for whatever system you're on. And then if you're watching this on our website through the tutorial, there's also a link to the Facebook group, and I highly encourage you to come join the group and share your crafts, share your pictures of what you've done. It's really just a nice small group of ladies who are very encouraging, who share what they've done, and we just lift each other up and cheer each other on, and it's awesome. So come join the group if you haven't. And then if you need anything, if you have any issues, if you can't get onto the website, you can't make a change to your membership, or maybe something happened with your box, you have shipping issues, something arrived broken, you're missing something, please use the email support@redbyrddesigns.com above anything else, because that is a sure way that I will get your request. Instagram, Facebook, any other social medias, their notification systems are wonky, to say the least. Sometimes things get pushed in requests that I don't see right away. They just get filed in different folders within those social media groups, and it doesn't always alert me. And so once a week, I try and go through and kind of pick through all of that and find things that might have gone missing. So to ensure that I answer you right away, always use the support@redbyrddesigns.com with anything that you need. Okay. And then obviously the 4 steps to your project. Make sure to schedule yourself time. And especially in the winter, we're like, oh, we're going to craft more in the winter, and we do. But it's also a busy time, and you deserve the time to de-stress and just have some quiet time where you get into that creative zone, and it really helps you just get on new perspective and just be a little more happy, right? So make sure to schedule yourself time, and then open your box right away when you get it and inspect it, and let us know if one, anything is missing, or two, anything is damaged, so that we can get you a replacement at no cost for you, out to you as soon as possible, because we want to make sure that when you're ready to sit and craft, you have all the supplies that you need. So yeah, let us know. Like, we package everything right in our home. We are a small business. There's no robots packaging your stuff. It's all human, and we are prone to error. So if we are missing anything, please let us know so we can fix it. And then when it's your crafting day, you can watch the video, you can download the written instructions, however you want to do that. And then, as always, share a picture of what you've made. We love seeing everybody's style come out in the group or out in the project. It's just amazing because we all have the same supplies, but we all do something a little different. We all hold our brushes different. We all want to use different colors, and it's just inspiring to see what everybody does. It gives everybody new ideas. It helps us ask questions. Oh, what if I did this, or what if I did that? And really gets those wheels turning for everybody when we share. So it's a really great, it's just a really great thing. So I encourage you to share your pictures. Okay. So let's talk about what comes in your box. You're going to have your base. You're going to have the two cute little deers. You're going to have one small tree, two medium trees, and two large trees, okay? And then you're going to have a black sponge brush, a chip brush. You're going to have a makeup sponge. You're going to have your little individual super glue. Do not open. I don't even think we need glue. Unless you want to glue. Oh, yes, we do need glue. Excuse me. You have your super glue. Don't open that until you're ready. A sanding block for distressing and smoothing your wood. We also have a nail file. I have two here. I don't need two. You'll have a pot of glue, the antique wax, red, silver, white, black, and green. These come in your kit as well as the tray. The tray you can use to mix colors. You can use it for whatever you need to. And also, if you want to incorporate your own colors, please feel free to do so. This is your kit. Paint it however you want. This tutorial that we're going to do is just a suggestion. It's just a guide. I want you to, as you're watching and as you're crafting, to ask those questions. What if I painted this white? What if I painted this with stripes? What if I added polka dots? Have fun with your kit and make it your own style. Okay. That is what comes in your kit, what you're going to need. A ruler, but not really necessary, and I'll talk about that when we get there. You're going to need some scissors, a pencil, some baby wipes, or damp rags, or a damp set of, oh, what am I thinking? Paper towels. And then you're going to need a water cup, rinse cup for rinsing your brushes, protect your surface, obviously, paper towels, rags, and a blow dryer possibly if you want to speed the process along, which I'll probably do while we are crafting today. Because my goal is to try and keep these videos to an hour long. And I've been running long lately, and so we're going to really try to make sure to speed it up and give you just the information that you need so you're not sitting here watching me watch paint dry, essentially, right? Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to start by taking my brown wax and waxing everything, or faux staining it. So this is a wax and a stain. It's a water-based stain. And I'm going to bring out the container so you know what I'm talking about. This is what we use when we send you the brown wax, when you see that in your kit. Sometimes we send burnt umber paint, but for the most part we send this wax, and so it seals and protects. It's water-based, non-toxic, so if you're ever wondering what we're using, this is it. You can get this at Walmart. It used to be called Waverly. It's now called Hello Hobby. And so that is what is in your kit today. So I'm going to start by staining my base. I want my base to be the antique wax color. And so I'm just dipping that baby wipe. I wrap it around my finger. I dip it a little bit into that pot. You don't need very much. You can really push that around. And I'm just going to start laying, brushing, pushing, I should say rubbing. I was looking for the right word. I'm going to start rubbing that color on my surface. And I'm using a pot that was not full when I got it, so I'm going to have to get a little more. I usually can take the pots that I make the kit the first time and do the kits twice with the same pots. Sometimes not, though. Sometimes I try and get 3 or 4 projects out of a pot, and by the time I get to the video, I am out. I should always check them before I start, I guess. So just rub it on, and then just keep rubbing it and pushing that color into the wood. And then after you get it, you can layer it fairly heavy if you want. And then just come back and wipe away any excess. You don't want to see anything that's like, you can kind of see that area where I layered it on really thick. You do not want to leave it like that, because this is not paint. It won't dry, and it will become tacky and sticky. So you want to wipe, rub on, rub off. So for the most part, you should be able to just kind of push that excess to a new area and get that stained. But if you have any areas that look super shiny and there's a glop of wax, you want to go back and wipe that off. So then I'm just going to fold my baby wipe and just take it, and for good measure, make sure that I don't have any areas where there's a heavy amount of stain / wax. Okay, that's our first piece. And then I'm going to do that with 4 more. I'm going to do 4 more trees. So I'm going to do my red tree, which is my small tree. And you can, again, choose any color you want. And I like putting the brown as a base under my color, because I'm going for a rustic look. So if you wanted to go for a more solid look where you're not going to distress it, things like that, you do not have to add this as a base. I like that distressed look, so adding this as a base when I go to distress it and sand the edges and kind of play with that color, with those textures, I get to see that dark brown underneath. Now, again, if you just want to have a nice solid red colored tree, maybe you're going for more of a whimsical look and you want to have red with polka dots or stripes or even painted lights on it, green with painted lights, however you want to do that. You can skip this step where we add the wax base underneath. And maybe you just wax your trunks. Okay. So I'm going to do my 2 mediums and my small, and then I'm going to do 1 large. You can also create some pretty stained deer instead of the black. And I might do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to stain my deer and instead of painting them black, so you can see the difference. I have my finished set here, and we'll show you the two ways that you can do your deer. I also really just love the light colored brown deer as well. I think just this natural wood color is really pretty. So you could leave them as that. You could paint them white with some brown distressing. It is starting to look like winter, guys. We have snow on the ground here. I know a majority of our members are in Montana, so I know you guys are experiencing the cold. And yesterday, well, was it Saturday, was really horrible out. It was so windy. Okay. And it's kind of splotchy in some areas. I could go back and add a little brown. So if you wanted to just have a brown stained tree as one of your trees, and one of them in the example is, you want to just kind of make sure that, you know, you have the same amount of stain everywhere to give you a nice solid. Now, in some cases, the wood will react to the stain differently. So in this case, like here, I know there's like a knot here. So I know that this is going to be darker and there's nothing I can do about that. That's the beauty of wood, and that's okay. But I know in this area I have, you know, you can even see some streaks down here while I was wiping it on. I can go back, add a little more stain, and just kind of play with that, rubbing it in, maybe removing some to help smooth it out. But this piece is going to be my piece that I'm going to do the crackle paint on. So I'm okay if it's not perfect at the bottom. So I'm just going to go through and just wipe away any little bit of excess that might be sitting on the surface. And there we go. And then this is the only one I'm not going to stain, because this one's going to be my green tissue papered tree. And that reminds me, I missed you should have, so you have your 2 tissue papers and your cardboard. I completely forgot about those. They were set out of sight, and so, you know, out of sight, out of mind. But you'll need those as well, and they should come in your kit. All right, so now that we've got everything stained, excuse me, / waxed, we can start with the coloring purposes. Oh, and I was gonna wax my little deer, guys. I completely forgot. I got distracted. So let me grab another piece of baby wipe, and we're just gonna gently wax these little deer. I really think that will be really pretty. I think having white deer would be pretty. And when you get to the horns, I suggest like starting at the base of the horn and rubbing out in a very soft, gentle manner. And you can even, as you get to the edge of the deer, to the edge of the horns here, you can just blot it on instead of rubbing so that you don't accidentally break your horns. They are delicate, so I'm just gonna tap my baby wipe on top. And I don't have very much stain there, so I know I'm not gonna get too much excess there. Okay? And then you can use a little more pressure on the body, just like you would anything else. And then for the legs, again, I would start at that base and rub down and out, kind of away from that body, and that ensures that you're not going to break the legs. Instead of trying to do it this way or go up, just pull down, and that works perfect. So there we go. We've got some really cute stained deer. So those are done. We're going to set those aside. And at the end, I'll show you the difference between the black and the red, or the black and the stain. Although you see it in the picture, right? Okay, so I'm going to start on my green tree first. I'm going to let these kind of sit for just a little bit. And I'm going to pull out my tissue paper. So we're going to need your tissue paper for this step, your choice of color. Mine's going to be green. We're going to need the black sponge brush, and that's it. All right, so I'm going to start by layering a coat of green paint on my tree. And you want to work fast because we want to have this paint be somewhat tacky and wet. So I'm going to try and go quickly here. We're going to just layer this on as fast as we can. We want to get it before it dries. You can add a little water to your paint if it's thick. And just add a little water to your brush as well. If I have any water in there, there we go. Kind of just activate that paint, keep it wet. Because this base layer is acting like a layer of glue. Okay, I should have stained my trunk. I'll do that next. All right, so it's all wet. We're just double checking, especially around the edges. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of tissue paper. Now we gave you 2, but you should only need 1. And I gave you 2 in case you wanted to do this technique on more than one tree. We crumple up the tissue paper and then pull it apart. And you see we've got all this great texture here. So then we're going to just lay it on our tree. And that wet paint is going to act like glue. So I'm just pressing that down. And if it has dry, and if there were bits that were dry, see how that's kind of sticking? It's not sticking, it's kind of popping up. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull that back, grab my brush with a little more green paint, wet it, and then push it back down. Okay, there we go. And look at all that. You could leave it like this, and I think this looks really pretty. It's kind of got that, it's not really a stained glass look, but it kind of looks like it's got some, what is the word I'm looking? Snow. It looks like it's kind of a snowy tree. So you could totally just leave it like this. And then do this next step here in just a minute. Just kind of let it dry. Okay, but I want mine to be a solid green. So then the next step is to layer some green paint on top. Okay, so we're just going to go back and paint that. This also helps if you have any big wrinkles. It kind of helps press them down and get them attached to the tree a little bit. Kind of smooth them out. You don't want to brush too hard and create just a smooth surface. We want to see that fun, crinkly texture come through. I love this technique. I actually had forgotten about it. I did paint an entire room like this with, you know, big pieces of tissue paper from like the Dollar Tree for like presents. So I went and got a bunch of tissue paper. I painted the wall and then I stuck this on. The room was for my son and the wall had this really terrible texture. It had been wallpapered, and so there was these just bits of things, and at the time we couldn't just, you know, redo the wall with what is it called? Not sheetrock. What do they do when they finish the wall? Anyways, we couldn't have it come in and sanded and refinished, so we did this, and it was super cool. I loved it. Anyways, there we go. So now we're going to let that sit. I have this area right here that's kind of puffed up. So I'm just going to add a little more paint to it and just push it down. And it could be because the paint underneath wasn't quite wet. And if that's the case, I don't know if I can, no, I'm not going to be able to lift it up. Just want to make sure that everything is sticking. Once this dries, once that paint on top of that tissue paper dries, you're not going to see those bubbles. It's just going to add to the texture of your surface of your tree. I just want to make sure, especially my corners, are all nice and wet so they dry. Okay, so we're going to let that sit. We'll come back to that and we will clean up the edges, and then that tree's done. Then we'll do the trunk there. So we'll put that one aside, and we will then do the medium tree here that has a look of galvanized corrugated metal. And to do that, we're going to use this piece of cardboard, and I'm so excited to have found this. I think it's so fun. It adds just that really cool metal texture that you see on things. And in this case, I'm kind of inlaying it. And inlaying means that I'm going to show the wood around. So we're going to see a little bit of that outline of the wood. You don't have to do it that way, and I'll explain that here in just a minute. So what I'm going to start by doing is cutting out my cardboard. So I'm going to turn it over where it's the smooth side that's easier to trace. And I'm going to just go through and outline my tree. Okay, so here I have the outline, and if I cut this out like this, it's going to cover this entire tree. And you can do that. You can just have one metal tree, and I think that would be really cool. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut back about 1/4 of an inch from this line, so it's just a little bit smaller than the tree, and it creates that inlaid look. Now you can take a ruler and measure in 1/4 of an inch and make some marks and draw some new lines, but I'm just going to eyeball it. So that's where I said that the ruler is optional. You can, again, measure and draw your lines that way, or eyeball it, whatever you want to do, whatever you're comfortable doing. I'm going to start by just cutting out the tree first. So I'm just going on my lines that I've drawn, and then I'm going to come back and trim away some of that cardboard. When you're cutting cardboard, sometimes it's hard to turn at this sharp corner. Your scissors are big, the cardboard's thick, it can kind of be hard. So what I do is I go up to that corner, right up to that point, and then I back out and come in and snip away the excess. And that seems to work a little bit easier. Okay. All right, so like I said, you could do a full metal tree, or you can cut a little bit away and create that inlaid look. So I'm just gonna eyeball it. Okay, I'm gonna go the other side too. And again, I'm gonna just go up the side first to my point, and then come along the bottom there. There we go. And then let's just take a look and see how that's gonna look. I think that's pretty good. So we will go with that. Okay. So this part of the tree is done. Put that aside, and I'm gonna actually use this tissue paper under here to paint my tree. I'm gonna paint my tree with silver, and this is gonna take a couple coats if you want a good solid silver color. Clean my brush here. And just go gentle, because as your cardboard starts to get wet, it will start to get pliable and easy to rip or even flatten these little rivets or corrugated pieces. If you want to do this with your other trees and or any other project, I'm going to show you a quick little tip here that you can create the same corrugated cardboard from just regular cardboard. I should say if we have time. I don't want to keep you too long, but it's really easy to kind of dismantle cardboard so that you just get that one edge and then this fun ripply pieces inside. Okay. This is going to take a couple coats. We want to let it dry completely. And if you want more of a rustic look, you can do less coats. Because it kind of looks rustic just as it is. We're seeing some of that cardboard kind of peek through, which makes it look a little rusted, not rustic, but so fun, right? I mean, that already looks like a piece of metal. I love this, this technique. Okay, so I'm just going to set that aside for a second, let it dry, and we will move on to our red tree, which is the small tree. Our green tree is still drying. Okay, so for the red tree, I am going to use red. I'm going to use some black and some white. And I'm going to use my chip brush for this. I'm going to start by putting on a coat of red. And you could go just with a light coat, taking that chip brush and just barely brushing that red on, and you get this really fun chippy red paint look. Or you can go a solid red and add some color on top. So I'm going to let some of that wood peek through. I'm going to have some areas where it's a little thicker. And that is how it's going to look. Now this looks super bright and not very good right now. It's just because the light's reflecting off of it. It will dry and look dark like the rest of the red. Okay. And then I'm going to dip my brush. I'm not going to wash it. Actually, I'm going to just grab my rag here and kind of offload some of that red. I want to get rid of some of that red, but not all of it. Then I'm going to grab some black, okay, and I'm going to offload some of that. I just want a little bit. I'm just going to drag that black, super light brush strokes. Just want a little bit of that dark color to bring in some different dimension. Sometimes when we are painting pieces and we're working with just maybe two colors, or it's, you know, super light, it can kind of look a little flat. Adding black really helps bring in some different dimension to your pieces and different texture too. So you can start to see how that black just added a little bit more to the chippy paint look that we're going for. Okay, I'm going to offload that black, still not wash my brush. I'm going to dip just a small amount. And I didn't show you this before, but I literally have the smallest amount of paint on my chip brush. Again, I'm going to offload some of that. And I'm just going to drag a little bit of white in there. Again, having that black and white really gives us that good contrast, adds so much dimension to our piece where otherwise it can look a little flat, especially when we're trying to achieve a rustic chippy look. So not much. Okay, and then you can even streak some silver in there for another different color. You can grab some of that brown and streak some of that. Just go really light on it just because it's a wax. It doesn't, just remember it's wax, it's not paint, so it kind of acts a little different. What you can do with the wax is you can take your baby wipe if you really wanted to go and get a heavy rustic look. Grab a little bit on the edge and just come in on the edges of your tree and rub in some of that dark. Just right on the edges. And I feather it in. And start to see my edges are looking nice and dark. Or you can go the other way, and instead of applying the dark wax on top, you can use your sanding block and sand your edges and show some of that brown that we originally put on, or you can keep sanding and reveal some of that lighter wood coming or underneath. So there we go. That is your small tree with the red rustic paint finish. Again, do whatever size tree you want, do whatever technique you want on your tree, on any size you want. Okay, let's put a second coat of silver on this now. It's dry. Acrylic paint is so awesome. It dries so fast. And once we get our first coat on, that first coat is like a seal for this cardboard. It's not nearly as susceptible to tear and being soft. That first coat is like a protected coat. So you have to go soft on that first coat, but you can speed the process up on the next coat. You'll probably notice it's a little stiff, which is what we want. And there we go. I'm already loving this super shiny look. So depending on your project, remember that we all paint a little different. We all apply, you know, the paint and load our brushes different. So if there's ever a point where I say I'm going to need a second coat or third coat and you don't, you can fast forward or pause the video, whatever way you need to. Sometimes, depending on the wood, you might need 2 coats, whereas I only need 1, or vice versa. So that's the beauty of the videos. You get to pause, fast forward, rewind, do whatever you need to accommodate your crafty time. All right, so now that we've got our final silver coat, I'm just gonna turn this and make sure I've got all the bits I want painted. It looks good. I'm gonna grab my chip brush and let's see, I'm gonna grab a little bit of black on my end. Smallest amount, I'm gonna offload that. I got way too much. So I'm just gonna tap here and get most of that off. And I'm just gonna tap and get little areas where we see some crackly little black. It's very small little specks of black that sometimes happen in metal. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same with white. Grab a little bit of white, offload it, and tap some white in my corrugated metal bits here. Another fun technique that you can do with your metal is add some rust. And to do that, you can use a little bit of the glue, put glue in a certain area, and then sprinkle cinnamon on it. And it makes the best smelling and looking areas of rust in metal. And you could do this technique on just the wood tree. Just paint it metal, add your black and white, add some rust, and have a smooth metal tree too. So there we go. That look great. The fun look of metal without having to deal with metal. So then we can grab our tree and glue it down. And see how that sits, that inlay. Love it. All right, so here we're gonna use our super glue. This is an individual use super glue. And I feel like a repeating robot here, but I have to say it every time. Please be careful with the super glue. It dries super fast. You can stick your fingers to it. You stick your fingers together. I've done it. But let me explain how to open this. Your applicator has a piercing part inside of it. So you do not need to find a needle, nail, or anything to pierce this. Your applicator will do it for you. When you're opening or putting on your applicator, make sure to hold the little bottle by the seam, not up here. When you hold it up here, you're applying pressure to it, so when it starts to pierce that, glue is going to start squirting out. So hold here at the seam. When you're putting on your applicator, screw it on slowly so that that pressure release doesn't happen so fast that glue squirts out. Also hold it upright. This is a liquid glue. If you hold it like this, glue will squirt out. So just goes nice and slow. You can also hear it. There's a little hiss when it releases. Sometimes it will bubble at the top. Just nice and slow. Take your time. And I did have a little pressure there. It kind of squirted out. And there we go. All right, so now we can go and just add some drops to the back of our cardboard. This dries super fast. Oh, I had it on my finger. I literally just stuck my fingers together after telling you to be careful about that. I didn't know it was on my finger. All right, so I'm gonna lay this here and then I'm gonna hold it. Now super glue sets up pretty fast, so you've got about a 10-second, 15-second hold time if you want something heavy on this. You can put a book on there. Just be careful though that you don't, it's something that will cover the entire surface, not something that like a weight would smash your corrugated little ridges here. Okay. And there we go. How fun is that? Super cool. Okay. I think our green tree is ready. We're going to finish our green tree and then we will wrap up by doing the funnest part last, in my opinion, my current obsession. What I'm going to start by doing is cutting the bottom of this piece first with my scissors. I should have cut it straight across, but that's okay. Okay, so now to get the excess off, it's just like when you are doing any sort of paper decorating. We're just going to use this edge of the nail file, and we're going to start at the edge. Let's see if I can turn it. So I'm holding it kind of at an angle and I'm pulling down. So I hold it and pull down. And you can kind of go around kind of at it, pull down and along that edge, and it cuts that tissue paper just beautifully. It's perfect. Now, as you're doing this, you might, in my case, I kind of pulled it away, but I also lifted up this corner. And if that's the case, that's okay. I'll show you how to fix it here in just a minute. And if dealing with all this excess is too much, you can go through and trim what you want away with a pair of scissors, just to kind of make it a little easier to handle. Kind of get in your way. Sometimes you cut through it and you don't even know it until you kind of pull at it. It's a fun way to get some cool texture on your piece. I love the look of this, and I love how we've got these areas of dark and light. It's so pretty. The camera does not do it justice. I can't wait for you to see it on your own. See if I can see how you see those dark and light areas and those fun veins. Lovely. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is grab my brush and just add a little green paint into those tips where I pulled it up. So I have a little area right here where the tissue paper came up as I was cutting it with my nail file. So I'm going to grab some paint pull it up, put a paint there, and then paint on top. So I'm going to check all my corners. I think that was the only one I did it on. Yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to grab a baby wipe and paint my trunk real quick because I forgot about my trunk here, or wax my trunk, I should say. And with this texture, this would look gorgeous with a little rustic, with this on top. Let me just see if I can get my corners here. So it's going to pull. So I'm just taking this and I'm lightly just brushing it on the top here. And only the veins are picking up that wax. And it's giving it just even a more defined look with all of those wrinkly bits. So fun. You can bring in the chip brush and add some white and some black in there. So I'm going to bring in my other one to show you the difference. I think that's kind of cool too. So this has no wax on top, and this does. So you can kind of see, just adds a little bit more of a rustic look to it. Okay, tree done. So we've got our plain stained tree. We've got our green tree. We're done with our red, our fun metal tree, and so now we're gonna do our decoupage. Crackle. It's not decoupage. Decoupage is when you deal with paper. It's crackling. So with crackling, you can buy what's called a crackling medium, and it is somewhat expensive. And I've discovered that it is, well, I didn't discover it. I saw it online, I should say that. That you can do the same thing with glue. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I've got my white paint ready and my glue. And we want to make sure that our brushes are ready. If you have brushes at home, having maybe 2 brushes would be helpful. I'm going to just use the one so I can show you that it is possible without 2. But 2 makes it nice so you don't have to wash in between. Okay. So what we want to start with is we want to start with a layer of glue. And you want your glue to be thick and thin in some spots. That's going to give you the different types of crackling. So where you see big cracks, that's where the glue was thick. Where you see tiny little cracks, that's where the glue was thin. So we want to layer that in different thicknesses on our tree. And we want to act fast because glue dries fast, and we want to layer our paint on top of that glue before it completely dries so we get that fun crackling. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to grab a lot of paint on my brush. I'm going to really load that up, and I'm going to layer that on so we can see that's a thick area. And we don't want to over brush, so don't keep going back over. Just layer it and go with it. You get about a 5-second work time. So there's that top part, right? We're just going to keep going. Push it around. Again, we want thin areas and thick areas, so don't feel like you need to have it super thick everywhere. It's okay to have some areas where it's kind of thin looking. I'm going to show you that as soon as I get this on here. And there we go. So you can see my thick areas are dark and my thin areas are light. It's not perfect. It's messy, it's messily laid on there, right? We can see tons of just different brush strokes happening. Okay, so then we want to clean our brush and give it just, I would say like 2 minutes. Probably by the time I get this brush clean, we'll be ready to layer some paint on there. We don't want it to dry, but we want it to have a film on there. And it's not going to be something that you can touch and look, see if there's a film, because the moment you touch it, it's just going to feel tacky. Kind of loses some of its shine. You're just giving it just a few minutes. You can take your insert and just even speed it along. And I wish there was a science there for you, whereas you set a timer and it's finished baking and you're good to go, but there really isn't. The only thing I can say is if you start to see it look super dry, you're ready to, it's too much. That's not what I want to say. So on the thin areas, I can start to see it drying. It's starting to look clear like it should for glue. You know, if we let this whole thing dry, we'd just see the wood coming through, right? So I can see some of my thin areas starting to dry. That's how I know I'm ready to go. It's starting to get a film on it. So what we're going to do next then is we're going to load our brush up with paint, lots of paint. And we're going to go super light. If you push too hard, you'll pull the glue up. So I'm just going to come up and start layering. And just lightly pull that over the glue. The other thing is you don't want to go back and brush back over that because you're just going to pull it all up. So we're just going to start from the top and pull down. So I've got some area, there's an area here that's kind of thick. I'm going to try and pull it up, but you can see how I tried to pull that thickness away and it pulled some of that paint. That's okay if that happens too. The other thing I want to note is this is a distressing crackle paint technique. So your paint does not, your brush strokes do not need to be perfect. They don't need to go up and down like I'm doing. It just, that kind of is how I'm doing it. They don't even need to look good, right? Some of my paint, I need a little bit more. I better hurry. Again, my pots are used for multiple projects, so you will have enough white or whatever color you're using. Okay, there we go. And it's not completely covering it, okay? So that's it. You can let it sit and dry. You can do this tree first and let it naturally dry, and you're going to start to see the crackles. You can start to see the crackling happen up here where it was thin. Isn't that cool? There's some crackling happen right here. There's crackling happen right here. That glue just doesn't like the paint, and so it's like trying to get away from it. So let's pull out my blow dryer and speed this process along. Whoops. And show you the magic of this fun technique. And of course it's not plugged in. Monday. Okay. Ugh. 1 second. Must have hit the button. There we go. So I'm going to hold this up so you can watch how this happens. And there we go. So you can see these bigger cracks. This is where I was more heavy with the glue. We've got some heavy cracks going on up here. And then those tiny little cracks is where it was light. So my tip for you guys, work fast. Don't worry about your brush strokes being, crazy. Don't overbrush because you'll pull that up if you try and go back like I did here, which turned out fine. This looks great in the end. So if it happens, it happens. And just let your glue dry for maybe 1 or 2 minutes. I think by the time I washed my brush, let it sit for a minute, it was perfect. It was perfect. If you start to see those thin areas start to dry, that's the time to get that paint on there. Put it on in a thick coat. Isn't that fun? I've been wanting to teach that for a while. I think it's such a fun texture, such a fun idea. Once you're done, you just slot your wood pieces in your base, however you want to layer them. I put the 2 largest in the back and then the 2 middle. Let's just get them out. You have some flexibility. You can spread them out, towards the very end and kind of create more of a wider display. You can bring them in closer and create more of a smaller display. If you want to glue your pieces in and make them permanent, you can, but I love the flexibility at the end of the season to pull them out and flatten them. And then your little deer can go anywhere. You can kind of have them maybe in that second row peeking back, depending on where you are at, but they just slot in as well. So I'm going to lay this down, and I want to show you the 2 options for your deer, or 2 possible options. There's more than one, obviously. Trying to keep the trees in spot. Okay, so here's a dark deer, and then with the light colored deer. So those are some different ideas for you. I'm not going to be, oh, can I do it without looking? There we go. No, I can't. I'm afraid to, oh, I did it. Okay. Anyways, you can go light or dark, or any color. You could go white. You could go silver. There's silver deer out there in the Christmas decorating world. So there you go. And what would be really pretty too is if you got that fabric, the snow fabric, and laid it down so it looked like there was a snowy base below your trees. That would be really pretty. You could add some greenery, such as just some little garland, little bits of greenery along the bottom as well. So there we go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this craft. I hope you enjoyed learning these new texture techniques and you apply them everywhere. We do have a few minutes. I want to just go over that cardboard idea with you. So I have a piece of cardboard. Yeah, I do. You can take any cardboard and you can see that it's got the corrugated. If you can find something thicker, works better. But all you have to do is take a spray bottle and spray one side. And then I just kind of let it sit for a few minutes. Kind of push that water in. And what we're doing is just getting rid of that top layer. So cardboard is 3 layers. It's the smooth, the corrugated, and then smooth. And some heavy duty cardboard might be a few more layers. But all you need to do is wet one side, and then it's going to kind of activate that glue or soften that glue, and you can pull that top piece away and kind of, it might leave some little hairy bits that you can clean up. But then you have more of this corrugated stuff that you can add to other trees or other projects. So really easy way to get that fun metal look from any cardboard that you have. Just wet it. Sometimes if it's a little tough to pull away, you might want to let it sit for a few minutes and get a little more wet. Add a little more water, and then before you do your project, you might want to let it sit and dry, depending on how much water you got there. But isn't that fun? So another little tip for you guys if you want to add more metal bits to your project. Okay, that's all I have, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a Joybox member. I so appreciate you. I hope that it truly brings you joy and you enjoy your crafting time, and I hope it spills out into other areas of your life and you're crafting even more. So I hope you have a great rest of the month, and we will chat with you soon. Bye.